Welcome back from the break.
For our next keynote, it is my honor to welcome the Senior Vice President of Research STR, Mr. Hood. I am sure most of you listening right now have at least heard of STR and their famous STAR report. And if you haven't, the STAR report has absolutely revolutionized the hospitality industry by providing hotels and businesses with vital statistics and information about their competition. And did you know, through his brilliant work, Mr. Hood has even received a plethora of awards recognizing his commitment to the hospitality education. And since I, Sam, and you, the delegates, are all in hospitality education right now, I think we all have one thing or two to learn from Mr. Hood. Delegates, don't forget, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to submit them. Mr. Hood, how are you doing today?
Hey, very good, YHS. It's great to be with you, and it's an honor to be able to present an industry update. But before I do that, what I want to start with is share the winners. It was my privilege to be involved in the warm-up workshop. Actually, a week before last, we had all the teams compete in a data analysis exercise. All the teams did fantastic. The presentations were really top-notch, but I do want to recognize three winners, first, second, third place. Coming in third place was team number 6. The name of this team, 6-1. So congratulations, third place winner, team 6. Second place winner, team number 14, the Global Game Changers. Great job as well. And the first place team, drum roll, Team 12, the Shark Hoteliers, congratulations, and it'll be our honor to send each of those team members a $100 gift card in the very near future. So congratulations and great job. I hope you all found that fun and educational as well. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to jump in, and if you notice, I titled this an industry update with an emphasis on the future of hospitality. So I'm really looking ahead as we're sharing this. I'm going to move quick. I'll be more than glad to get this PowerPoint out to everyone. If you think back to 2021, you know, the industry is in recovery, but it's very complicated right now. There's diversity among regions, diversity among countries, ADR recovering quicker than occupancy. That's never happened before in the hotel industry. All kinds of different COVID scenarios. You guys are all from all over the world. You know what I'm talking about there. You know, people trying to stimulate travel. Some areas recovering steadily, but some in multiple waves. Big city differences. Typically, the urban destinations very hard hit. And lots of changes, a lot of lessons to be learned. Changes in the way we're measuring performance, ways we've never done it before. And let me just show you where we're at. This is 2021, end of the year, but it is not the actual occupancy. It's occupancy indexed back to 2019 levels. So as I've shared before, we're using 2019 as a baseline. These numbers here show you how far are we back to 2019 levels. So place like Europe, 60% of the way back. Mainland China, 83. North America, 86. Asia, though, 57, you know, but much slower to recover due to all the outbreaks and restrictions going on there. If you look at the ADR, you see the numbers are much higher. And again, the ADR recovering quicker than occupancy is something we have not seen before in the Great Recession or in previous cycles. You can see some of these areas are almost back to 2019 levels. This data is not adjusted for inflation. We can help you do that. Europe, 94. Asia, only 73. That tends to be the laggard, but some areas either very close or over 100. The cities, very hard hit. And here you see, you know, examples. And they, again, this is an occupancy index number. So you're seeing cities, you know, there's none in the 90s in this group, a few in the 80s, a lot of 70s. And then you drop down to the yellow and you have some of these areas, London, Paris, Berlin, Rome, you know, really hard hit and slower to recover. Now, the good news is we are seeing some recovery in some of these just by the end of the year. One of the interesting phenomena in 2020 and 2021 were the bright spots. People had the misconception that every hotel, every destination in the world was doing awful. And that's just not the case. I list on this slide a bunch of different bright spots. Of course, domestic travel, that's very obvious. Weekend getaways, big deal. But But when you look at types of hotels, there were distinct differences. There were always hotels that were doing well, and same with types of destinations. Let me show you. This is sort of obvious. Some of these leisure destinations, ones that were reliant upon international demand, places like Bali and Phuket, very hard hit. But ones that could take advantage of domestic demand, like Gold Coast or Sanya, did very, very well and recovered much quicker than the others. So very much a domestic situation. Destinations, not all created equal. And I love this slide because it shows Sanya in China actually broke all the records in 2020 in the midst of a pandemic. At the top of the slide, I list other examples, places like the Maldives, Darwin, Sochi, Algarve, the Swiss ski resorts, and in the US, I list some other markets that did comparatively much better, Dubai as well. So not all destinations were created equal, and not all hotels were created equal. During 2020, and this is just a snapshot of the US, but look at that, there were always a group of hotels that were experiencing occupancies greater than 80% throughout the entire year of 2020. You just had to, these were special hotels, boutique, more of sometimes lifestyle, more of a weekend getaway destinations, not in the big cities, but in the more rural, maybe outdoor type locations. But there always were some bright spots. Now, as we end 2021 and we're entering 2022, what are we seeing? We had a strong summer season in 2021 and less of a drop afterwards. Vacations still popular. Maldives, anybody go to the Maldives for New Year's? If you did, you spent a whole lot of money, and there were a lot of people there with you. Success of specific events. Dubai Expo is doing awesome. The Olympics did relatively well. Quicker recovery coming out of second and third and fourth waves. Omicron impact for sure, but as we're coming out of February, we're seeing, it's coming back. Business travel slowly returning, urban markets catching up, higher end hotels catching up. Signs that group demand is returning on the weekday. Some big increases in recent increases in some leisure destinations around the world. Here's U.S. data showing the metrics coming out. Even in February, just coming up out of the end of December and January drop related to Omicron. This just compares December occupancies in countries in Europe, even in the midst of Omicron, much higher than they were in 2019 and in 2020. So things are coming out even in spite. Look at these are the highest ADR markets. These are destination markets and highest ADR increases when you look at 2021 ADR to 2019 ADR. Look at the winners there, and again, you're not seeing markets like Paris and Amsterdam. You're seeing smaller markets, a lot of leisure destinations, Sochi, Seychelles, the Florida Keys, Bournemouth, who would have thought that, and Hawaii and Cape Cod, Bora Bora. Look at the big winners here from an ADR point of view. Different sets of destinations than what you might have been guessing and what you had seen in prior times. Second waves, look at India coming out. Big, slow recovery out of a first wave, got hit hard at the beginning of 2021, but came out very quickly, now sort of back on track. We're seeing that in lots of different places. India is just one example. And look at the Dubai Expo takeoff. This is OCC and ADR. Increases in occupancy at the end of the year just shot up for New Year's and up to huge numbers as far as the expo, much better than people may have guessed. Group business. Now, this is just a snapshot of U.S. group business. We can get that data to you for anywhere in the world. By the end of December, group business was about 70% of the way back. Now, Omicron caused a drop in January. That's understandable. But again, those second waves in the recoveries end quick, jump back up. So we'll have to wait to see what February looks like. As we look ahead to 22 and 23, what are we watching? We'll be watching very closely spring break. That's around the corner for many of you. Then summer and then the holidays in 22. Return of events. We're already seeing that. Restrictions lifting. Companies returning to office. International flights coming back. continued recovery of the big cities and the higher end hotels, rebound of business travel, meeting and events 2.0. What is that going to look like when they come back? The changes, the formats, and people talk a lot about pent up group demand, pipeline development playing out. I'll show you a slide on that. Profitability issues, of course, labor challenges, wage increases, big in the news, and they have a lot of side effects when it comes to the hotel industry and operations, and then forecasts as well. Let's take a quick look. Here is recovery going to be different in different areas of the world. Here I pick out just a few countries and representative countries, and we're going to see this recovery playing out in 22, then 23. But everywhere is on the way back. A lot of events coming up in the future. This is a small snapshot of Europe and some of the big spikes using our forward-looking data. You see Ed Sheeran concert. I mean, it's basically halfway booked in Dublin in April. So make your reservations quick or you'll never get in. Pent up but not spent up. This is interesting. This is from our friends at Tourism Economics. We do our forecasting with them, and it shows the savings rate. Now think of it. Everybody's locked in their homes. They're pent. There's a lot of surveys on pent up demand. The intent to travel surveys are great. But the other thing is the savings rates, because people have not been out to travel, the saving rates are really high. A lot of money to be spent, and how much of that will get spent on travel. Again, this is a great chart related to group and event, the potential of pent-up demand, and I'll let you study that a little bit more. It's looking into the rest of this year, but a lot of potential pent-up demand. Think of it. The meeting and events, they have not taken place. YHS hasn't taken place for 3 years. When there is the opportunity to get back and attend that conference, they're expecting a big bounce back, and that'll be exciting to watch as well. Another important factor, the supply, the pipeline data. Now, what we've seen during 2020 and 21 is much less abandonment, where people give up on the hotel project completely if it was under construction or in a planning phase. Much more deferrals. Why? Because the investors and developers realize, hey, just be patient, move back the open date, and we know the business will be back. So potentially high numbers when it comes to openings in this year, 23, 24. This is just a look at Europe, and look at all the projects in Asia. These are all those yellow dots are hotels that haven't opened yet, that are supposed but will be opening in the very near future. Lots of pipeline data. GOP margins, the hotel industry did a fairly good job in 21 and 20, coming back to levels of profitability. So that's a good news, a good sign for the industry. Labor, of course, has been big in the news, and this is just a look at U.S. labor data. Look at the huge drop related to COVID. Now, look at the recovery. It's not even half of the way back in terms of recovery. So there are labor shortages for sure everywhere in the world, not just the U.S. That's big in the news, and the hotel industry is definitely figuring out ways to solve that problem. So all of that brings us to this point here. What does the future hold? And as we think about future of hospitality, let me give you some thoughts. First, and I could title this, can I interest you in a career in hospitality? You guys are all committed, so that's not a question for you. But it is a question that industry is asking, because obviously, that's a need for labor is a huge need, and the big hotel associations, UNWTO, American Hotel and Lodging Association, Institute of Hospitality, are all trying to figure out, how do we get more people interested in a career in hospitality? Well, one of the big things I hear at industry conferences, and people keep using this term, uncharted waters. There's such an opportunity for you all to make an impact, and not just a long-term over 10, 20, 30 years impact, but I mean a quick impact. Unprecedented need for data analysis, strategic decision making, problem solving. I showed you just small examples of the data that people are looking at. There are a lot of things that people haven't seen before, and they're trying to figure that out. Employment opportunities are obvious, but the good news is all the companies, their HR is thinking about career progression and retention. How do they keep the people within the industry rather than losing them? As I shared, record hotel openings in certain areas of the world. That's exciting news for you guys as you're thinking about graduating and going out into in starting a new career. It's interesting. I've been watching the news. I keep up with hotel news now, and you're seeing articles on new brands and mergers and acquisitions and expansion and new players. It's like 2015, all over again when everything was growing and expanding. And now we're seeing it again. Just a very exciting time. A lot of new things going on. Potential resurgence of travel and group business. I sort of shared with that before. Meetings 2.0. What is that going to look like? What an opportunity to be on a cutting edge of a big surge in new business. Obviously, renewed emphasis on technology. The companies are trying to figure out, hey, how can we do that to blow away the customer, but also to save on labor costs and things like that. Innovation opportunities galore. You think about sales and marketing, meetings and event, loyalty, and that's been a big question. How are people going to reinvent loyalty programs after the loyal customers haven't been traveling for 2 or 3 years? How are we going to get them back? How are we going to reinvent them? A lot of people, myself included, thinking about, hey, should I shop around and look at a different company when it comes to loyalty programs? Capitalizing on the 2020 and the 2021 bright spots. I shared all of those bright spots with you earlier for a reason, because, as I said, many hotels, I've been on a panel with lots of different GMs who were saying 21 has been great for us. We've been full, we've raised rates. And now, how do those types of hotels and the destinations like Sanya and Perth and Darwin and Algarve, how do they get those customers back next year when those customers can get on an international flight or they can go anywhere they want? How are those bright spots going to continue on that momentum and keep people coming back? Again, lots of innovation there as well. And then finally, opportunities to reinvent past problems. Now, think about it. Some of those destinations like Venice and Barcelona, where you would read in the news the problems and challenges of over-tourism. Obviously, that has not made the news in the last couple of years. Now, those destinations have the opportunities to sort of a do-over in those destinations, and can they reinvent and solve some of those problems that they experienced before in a different way? Also, sustainability, DEI, lots of things that people have the opportunity to sort of do over. That'll be real interesting to see how that all plays out. So all of that to say, a very exciting time, a really, in some ways, a perfect time to be getting ready to graduate, getting ready to enter a profession. And so really, in a lot of ways, your timing couldn't be better. I'll finish up with just one other reminder. Another opportunity, instead of going to work for in the industry, is to stay within academia. And any of your schools would be more than glad to talk to you about master's and PhD programs. But even for academics, a lot of opportunities for research and opportunities in the classroom as well. So keep in mind, that's always an option as well. Hopefully you found that helpful and hopefully just a little bit encouraging. If anybody was second guessing their career decision, I hope I gave you some positive inspiration related to that. And my pleasure to be able to join you all. So let's end the presentation and move into Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Hood, for that great keynote. Yeah, I think we have something to learn from you, and it's reassuring to hear from you that I think we're in the right industry. We have a few questions coming in right now. The first being, do you think there will be any long-lasting impacts of COVID-19, and do you think the hotel industry will ever fully recover?
That's a good question. I think there'll be a lot of long-lasting impacts. I think, there'll be things that will never go back to normal, or what people experienced before. The safety concerns, very interesting. It's funny as companies have so total different philosophies on things. If you think back 5 years ago and you went to a hotel, the last thing you would see 5 years ago in a hotel would be the housekeeping staff out in the lobby or in the hallways cleaning things. Why? Because they wanted that to happen in the evening when nobody saw them. Well, in COVID, of course, they want everybody to see the housekeeping staff cleaning, and so you're going to see some interesting things like that. I think the emphasis on labor, and this is something I hear from a lot of CEOs, that they've really had, they've come to a realization. They always knew labor was important, and the staff and employee experience, employee loyalty was important. But I think now there's a whole different realization as far as that's concerned, and I think I don't think that'll ever go back. That's great news for employees in the hotel industry, I think. So,
thank you.
For our next question, we have: what is the most important thing to remember at the end of the day when we look at the different data collected during COVID?
Most important thing at the end of the day, I guess, when you look at all the data, I guess probably the biggest thing in my mind is that itself. There's just a huge amount of data, and just so many opportunities to analyze that and pull certain things out of it. On the last slide, I put in research opportunities, and I think if anybody thought data analytics was important in 2015 and late 20s, coming out of COVID, 2020, 2021, I think, that it couldn't be mistaken. The critical importance of analyzing data, and making and using that data to make strategic decisions. I heard a lot of CEOs during 2020, especially, say their companies have developed a war room mentality. And here's what they mentioned. They basically said, look, every week, every month, we get the data in, we're looking at our portfolio, and we're trying to figure out who are the winners and who are the losers among our portfolio. And, we've never done it this way. And we're looking at the winners. We're trying to figure out, what are they doing, and, weekend getaway package. This guy, they mix urban and outdoor, I heard a story of one, big urban destination that figured out some outdoor experiences that they could take the guests to. Come to our big city, but on Saturday, we'll get you out in the woods, and then come back Saturday night, and then you can go out on the streets and downtown where you used to. It just felt safer. And, and so there, the war room mentality was such that they look at that data and were making decisions impacting next week. What are we going to do next week? And I don't think that ever happened. They shared that it was just a whole different way of operation, but it was working. And they took, the input from, the whole team and use that to benefit all the hotels in their portfolios. That's probably my biggest takeaway as far as at the end of the day.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have no, I don't believe we have any more questions for you. No, that should be it. Well, thank you so much for that great keynote, for your insightful answers to our questions. It was wonderful. As I said before, I think all of us at EHL and all the delegates have something to learn from you. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Hood. What a spectacular keynote to round out our second to last day. And I especially appreciated hearing all the metrics and seeing the data of which cities rebounded better than others. It's very interesting and very eye-opening. I was quite surprised.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the event. Always an honor.
That was a spectacular keynote to round out our second to last day. From the panels to the fireside chats and the various keynotes, I, for one, I'm feeling very confident about the future of hospitality. How about you?
The future of hospitality lies in our hands, the delegates, as well as us, the leaders of tomorrow. I believe I speak on behalf of the entire YHS community to say that all of you delegates brought forward thought-provoking discussions in today's sessions.
Absolutely. However, it's not over for you delegates. Tomorrow is the final day of the YHS Challenge, where you will have the chance to present your concept in only 1 minute. We cannot wait to find out which team will win, and from the insightful questions I heard during the delegate sessions, you are coming up with something good. And we also heard that there are some amazing prizes for our lucky winners.
Alrighty then, that's a wrap for today. Get some sleep and charge up your batteries, because tomorrow we have a fully packed day, including 2 keynotes, one from Craig Smith, Mr. Craig Smith, one from Mr. John Pagano, 2 fireside chats, and another important panel discussion, the only way forward.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, and see you tomorrow.